AM 1450, FM 99.3 KNSI. Welcome back to Your Health, produced in association with CentraCare. 'Tis the season, my friends. I love grazing those holiday parties. I hate what it does to my scale. Emily Rothstein is in studio with us. It is time for another Dietitian's Dish. Welcome. It's good to have you back in studio.
Thanks. So as far as kind of my role as a dietitian, there's a wide variety of areas that dietitians can work in.
Sure.
In general, dietitians are just simply an expert in food and nutrition.
Right.
So that can be helping the general population make more healthful choices, or it could be more from a medical standpoint of helping people deal with chronic diseases like cancer, heart disease, or diabetes.
Okay, so if there are a variety of illnesses and how that impacts what you eat, how it impacts how your body processes that food, you kind of tweak the diet.
Exactly.
All right, very good. Now, we are going to today talk about what we eat, what we drink, our diet, and the whole holiday problem that it can certainly create. The importance of creating and maintaining a diet routine. Where would you like to begin today, Doc? I know that we're into the holiday season. We haven't started with our Christmas parties around here. Of course, we've just eaten our way through Thanksgiving, right?
Right.
Have you got some tips for us, or where would you like to begin?
I think the biggest thing I like to encourage people to remember, though, is as much as food is nourishment, because it absolutely is, food is also social and how we celebrate things. So food isn't something to be feared. It's supposed to be enjoyed. Exactly.
Okay, so food is something that we are supposed to enjoy. Conversation, good friends, all of that kind of stuff. Am I alone in thinking the problem is we just kind of forget about things sometimes and just, scoop another carrot stick full of dip?
Yeah, it's easy when you go to these buffets or these get-together where food is in abundance, it's easy to get carried away. But one thing I encourage people to do is treat it just like any other day as far as eating goes. You still want to make sure that half of your plate is fruits and vegetables, a quarter of it is whole grains if possible, and a quarter of it is a lean protein. You can enjoy those things that are seasonal that you maybe wouldn't otherwise get to have, and don't feel guilty about it, because that's going to lead you to like a restrict binge cycle,
right?
Which we know isn't beneficial.
Well, but it happens all the time, doesn't it? Let's talk a little bit more about that restrict/binge cycle. Explain a little more if you would.
So often we associate our foods as either good or bad. We put a moral label on it,
right,
which I actually encourage people not to do, because then when we eat those foods, we're internalizing it, right? Like we're literally consuming it, and we then in turn think that we've been good or bad based on what we've eaten.
Yes.
If you can remove those labels and simply see a salad as a salad, a cookie as a cookie, a burger as a burger, that's going to take away that emotional eating side of things. Okay. And then rather than saying, oh, I have to be good today, I can't eat this, you then in turn are going to say, well, I fell off the bandwagon, I may as well eat anything and everything in sight. So you restrict until you snap,
right?
And then you're going to binge.
Okay. It is so interesting because we have this plate of food, as you called, the buffet is out there as well. But we also have people that are saying, would you like some more potatoes, Bob? Right? I'm not going to say no to potatoes, right? So what that tells me is that we need to stop foisting food on people.
Honoring your hunger and honoring what other people say. If they say, no thanks, it was delicious, but I'm good, be respectful of that, because that person is trying to listen to their body.
Emily, have you always been conscious like this of food, or is it your training?
I've always been interested in nutrition and its role in its body, specifically starting in high school and college when I was an athlete.
Sure.
But a big part of it is, one thing to remember is we could all eat the exact same thing, but we're all going to have different body types.
Right.
Our diet plays a big role in our weight and our health, but genetics is another big component that we often forget about.
Okay. How do we fight those genetics? And I'm real interested in this one.
A lot of it is that diet mentality as far as choosing those most healthful foods the majority of the time. As kind of a general guide, I recommend people choose those really nutrient-dense foods about 80% of the time. Like I said before, half your plate fruits and vegetables, a quarter of it whole grains, and a quarter of it lean proteins. But then that remaining 20% is going to be those soul foods, those things that you really love and enjoy, and they're going to keep you from kind of getting into that restrict binge cycle because you're allowing you're allowing yourself to have them on a regular basis so you don't ever feel deprived.
So like comfort foods, that would be that category then?
Yep.
Okay. I'm just going to toss this out, folks. If you want to think about something, everybody always makes their New Year's resolutions, right? I believe people sometimes set themselves up for failure by doing it that way. Why wait? That would be my suggestion right now. We'll see what Emily Rothstein has to say about that when we return with Your Health on KNSI. AM 1450, FM 99.3, KNSI. Back with more of Your Health. This time around, Dietitian's Dish. Perfect timing for the holidays. I know, Christmas parties, right? Emily Rothstein is a registered dietitian with CentraCare. And Emily, this whole time of the holidays can really throw an eating routine right out the window, right? And when I say that, up at 6, breakfast, go to work, cup of coffee, this, and lunch at 12 noon, and, dinner's on the table at 6 o'clock every night. Is that the eating routine that you're talking about?
I think a lot of it has to do with you have to find something that's going to work for you in the long term. Right now, there's the word diet out there. We really associate that with what can't I have anymore, where really a diet is just a pattern of eating. And anytime you have a pattern of eating, you want it to be sustainable.
Yeah, whenever I hear the word diet, I automatically think of restrictions. Like you said before, what I can't have, right? Mm-hmm. Try to think of your body as a machine, right? You only need X amount of gallons of gas in the car, and you want to make sure it's premium if you need it, right? And we try to eat certain times every day in that little window. When you put food into that body, is it sitting there waiting, hey, it's 5:45 p.m., Bob, where's my dinner?
It can be, absolutely. Our metabolisms are going to always be in effect, and so giving our body fuel consistently and regularly throughout the day is important. If your body knows fuel is always coming, it's going to run at its best.
So those smaller meals throughout the day, like maybe 6, that keeps your metabolism up?
It can just help you kind of keep you from overeating at particular meals, or let's say you skip lunch, 2:30 in the afternoon rolls around, and you want to eat anything and everything that's in the break room.
Right.
So eating consistently can just kind of help with that mindset.
I also think planning, right? Tell me if I'm wrong here. I don't think people really think much about what they're going to eat, when they're going to eat. I think they just, oh, gosh, it's lunchtime. I better go eat now.
I would agree with that for sure. So taking a little bit more of a proactive approach to it can be really helpful. Plan out what you are going to have throughout the day. Take extra snacks and have a variety of snacks so you have some options. I know I have a kind of a snack drawer that I have a stash of things.
What's in there?
Peanut butter, nuts, crackers, some chocolate, because sometimes you just need some chocolate. So good. A variety of things.
Yeah. Chocolate and peanut butter, right?
Yep, exactly.
Okay, so if a dietitian who is a professional eater, right, I think, if that's what you do, again, I go back to when you were younger, it just seemed to kind of be a natural thing, right? It made sense to you. But what if you're not like that, in that mindset? What can we do to, I guess, be more mindful of those things that we're putting into our mouth?
First and foremost, I think have those healthy options available.
Okay.
Because when push comes to shove, if we're in a time crunch, we're going to go for what's convenient.
Yeah.
So if you have to cut up the pineapple, or you could just reach in and have a handful of chips, you're going to choose the chips.
Right.
So doing a little bit of prep work can be really helpful. For instance, when you do your grocery shopping for the week, prep and wash all those fruits and veggies so that the way they're easily accessible throughout the week.
Okay. I think of, again, when you are doing that whole prep work, I think it also reinforces the reason behind what you're doing.
Absolutely.
You don't want to waste that time. You're buying better food, more expensive food, more often than not. You don't want to waste that money either.
And you also have to realize, too, that if you're listening to your body, you're probably going to feel the best when you eat those more nutrient-dense foods.
Okay, for snacks, does it matter if it's morning or afternoon or before I go to bed what those snacks are?
Not necessarily. When it comes to snacks, a lot of times they tend to be really high in carbohydrates.
Okay.
Now, don't hear me say that carbohydrates are bad, because they are not.
Okay.
But we do want to make sure that we include some protein in there for muscle building, and then perhaps even like a healthy fat of some sort, because we know that fat helps to keep us fuller longer.
Okay, you talked about the grocery store a little bit. When we go shopping, I have always heard the best foods are on the outside of the grocery store. True?
To some extent, but if you weren't to ever shop the inside aisles, you would miss out on your whole grains. You'd miss out on your canned fruits, which are really convenient. You'd miss out on your oats. You'd miss out on your beans. So you'd be missing a lot of things.
I can't believe you said canned fruits because I've heard, oh my gosh, they're not good for you as opposed to fresh fruit.
Poor canned fruits and vegetables get a bad reputation. Now, I will say when it comes to fresh fruit, you do have the benefit of additional fiber in the diet because you have the skin on it, which is an excellent thing.
Right.
But we also have to realize that everyone's in a different place. And you had mentioned earlier that sometimes those healthy foods are more expensive. Canned fruit is a much less expensive option.
Right.
And so when it comes down to it, it's still a great option. One stipulation I put in there, though, is with canned fruit, make sure you get it packed in its own natural fruit juice and not heavy syrup. I'm
glad you said that. I love canned fruit. I'll tell you what it is. It's time. When I have time to look at the label, make sure that I'm buying the right stuff, or if I'm pressed for time. And that goes into the whole planning thing, right? Just don't go to the store and grab a bunch of stuff and leave.
Exactly. Yep.
You have to make your plan, your grocery list, as they say. Okay, when it comes to that whole grocery shopping thing, are you a list maker?
Absolutely.
It's pretty much imperative, isn't it? All right, Emily, as long as we're talking about shopping and in the grocery store, I go to the grocery store because I am going to feed myself, but also I'm going to feed other people. Let's talk about maybe some alternatives when it comes to making recipes healthier.
Absolutely. First and foremost, I think if you're in the grocery store, you want to spend a lot of time in the produce aisle and get a wide variety of color. And then when you go home and you are making those recipes and you're following that recipe to a T, you can throw in extra produce. That's just going to bulk it up a little bit more and give you more of a plant-based diet, which is a great thing. Additionally, there are some swaps that you can do at home that can just be helpful to help cut back on calories if that's what you're after. Okay. For instance, if you're making a recipe, just cut back on the sauces, the cheeses. Most baked goods, you can actually scale back on the sugar a little bit just because there's plenty in there. You don't need quite as much as in there usually. And same goes for butter. Another example of what people will sometimes do is if a recipe calls for a lot of sour cream, you can just simply use plain unflavored Greek yogurt and you're going to cut back on the fat content and you're going to increase the amount of protein in that recipe. If you're baking, a lot of times people will they'll cut the oil in half and then they'll replace that half with some applesauce too. That will give you kind of that moisture that you're looking for in the recipe. And you're increasing fruits, scaling back a little bit on the fat side of things.
Just little things, right? How about salt and salt replacements? Do you have a favorite?
Whatever herb and spice you like. Mrs. Dash has a lot of great options, but even just adding extra basil or cinnamon or oregano or paprika or whatever it is, if you're going to cut back on salt, you're going to want to replace it with another non-salt substitute of some sort. And that can just simply be a plain like dried herb. That's fine.
It's surprising, though, how much salt we find in things. We mentioned canned goods, and I think the last time you were in here, we were talking about, like, say you're whipping up a green bean casserole, right? Take those green beans out of the can, wash them, rinse all the stuff they're packed in off because a lot of salt goes away then, right?
Yeah, some studies say somewhere between 40 to 55%, depending on what study you're looking at. But
that's a lot of salt.
It is, yep.
Do you like salt? Do you ever add salt?
I don't add a lot of salt to my foods, with the exception of popcorn.
Yeah, oh, for sure. And, well, I got to say the butter word there. Is it a good thing to exercise before dinner, a good thing to exercise after, or is it a toss-up?
I think that's a really great question. One thing that I want people to understand is that, A, you do not need to earn your calories.
Okay.
So if you want to go out and exercise before a big meal, that's great, but don't do it as a mentality of, if I do this exercise now, I can eat more later.
Okay.
Because then you're not listening to your body. You've set your mindset up to, I'm going to go on a binge later. Additionally, when you overeat the next day, feel free to go out and move your body, but don't do it as I have to burn off what I've eaten.
Okay. Exercise and nutrition go hand in hand, don't they? Okay, let's talk about different types of exercise when it comes to cardio as opposed to, lifting heavier weights. Tell me the best way to improve your cardio. Is it by walking? Is it by being on a treadmill? Is it by running?
Truthfully, when it comes to cardio, It's going
Bicycling?
to come down to whatever you enjoy.
Okay.
Getting that heart rate up in general is what we're after.
Whatever you're going to do, that's the best one, right?
Exactly.
But do something.
Exactly. And try to make it fun. Join a class, work out with a friend or a family member, a spouse. If it's something that you're looking forward to, you're going to be more accountable.
Emily Rothstein is our guest, registered dietitian and also certified oncology nutritionist with CentraCare. A dietitian's dish, this part of your health. When we come back, we're going to talk about the diet mentality. We're going to talk about some strategies that we can consider during the holidays and other special occasions, like using smaller plates, if that really works. You are listening to Your Health. We'll be right back. AM 1450, FM 99.3, KNSI. AM 1450, FM 99.3, KNSI. Our final installment of this edition of Your Health Dietitian's Dish. Emily Rothstein is our guest. Emily, I want to ask you about a diet mentality, right? We talked earlier about the fact that if you are on a diet, it means you must be overweight. That's not the case. That's not the kind of mentality that we want to go about.
Think of diet as an eating pattern.
Okay.
So just falling into that routine and that structure that we had talked about before, where you eat consistently, you're allowing all foods in moderation, that's going to be sustainable. Right now, I think when we hear the word diet, there's such a negative connotation to it. It's what can't I have, or what are they going to take away from me? Okay.
I'm going to the office Christmas party. Small plates, does that really, really work?
It can, especially because we eat with our eyes first, right? We look at something, and when it looks really good, it's going to be more appealing to us versus if it doesn't. So when that smaller plate has maybe the same portion of food on it that a regular size plate would have, but it's more condensed because it's in a smaller space, that can be helpful. But the other thing, too, is when you're at that holiday work party, enjoy the food, but also enjoy the company and why you're there, and try to take the emphasis off of the food, and that can help alleviate that stress of eating a little bit too.
Grazing at the buffet. First of all, it's not cool. It's not good manners. Bad form. Bad form. And you're just likely to just sit there and go, oh, this is really good. I want more. Put it on your plate. Get the heck out of there.
Exactly.
Right? What about beverages? Because alcohol can really tweak that appetite, can't it?
Well, it can. We get a little bit, maybe a little less discretion, perhaps.
Yeah, there you go.
And then we also know that those alcoholic beverages are going to be higher in calories, and those add up very quickly as well. The general guideline that we give is no more than 2 drinks per day for men and 1 drink per day for women, and you cannot collect them throughout the week to enjoy them all on the weekend.
Oh, really? Okay. Gotcha. None of those drink tickets. That doesn't work. What about, God, and I hate social media. What about social media? Are there good sites out there where we can go to actually get honest to goodness information and not be judged?
I think with social media, the big thing to kind of take into account is who is putting the information out there. What are their credentials? Yeah. Are they a self-proclaimed nutritionist that has no actual credentials, or are they a registered dietitian? If you're looking at a website, I always encourage people to look for .edus, .orgs, and .nets, because we know that those have a little bit more accurate information. Okay.
Should we walk before we run when we know that, listen, I'm carrying around, okay, I'll use myself as an example, at least 50 pounds overweight, right? Should I walk before I run, start getting this change in my diet mentality?
I think when it comes to making those changes, small kind of baby steps are going to be what's most sustainable. Okay. Crash diets don't work. You're going to follow it for a week or two, and then you're going to fall off the bandwagon and say, well, that didn't work, so I guess I'm done.
I have to ask you, is there a particular place that you would go if you wanted to advise me on what to do to eat healthy, but yet a way for you to lose weight?
The ticket to weight loss is to make sure that you, don't do anything super drastic. That's not sustainable.
Right.
And then allow all foods in moderation while taking into account that you do need a calorie deficit to lose weight.
Okay. Should I see a doctor before I start to think about losing weight?
It can't hurt.
Yeah. That's what I think, especially after you reach a certain age, because younger people have that tendency to bounce back a lot quicker than older people do. Do you find that?
Yeah, I would say that that's an accurate thing. As we age, maybe we slow down a little bit,
Yeah.
where somebody who's a little bit younger can get away with a little bit more.
And we need to think perhaps about altering our food intake, what we're eating, that type of thing as we get a little older too.
Metabolism does typically slow down as we age. So sometimes those portion sizes can scale back a little bit because we don't need quite as much. But make sure that you're still getting adequate protein and that you're not depriving yourself.
You know what else happens? Gravity gets stronger the older you get too. It's not fair. It's just not fair. Emily Rothstein, again, I can't thank you enough. Dietitian's Dish. If folks want more information, can they go to CentraCare.com to maybe get that information, schedule some appointments with a dietitian, or get that doctor's appointment?
Yes, I think starting with the doctor is a nice starting point, and then ask for a referral to a dietitian. There's a wide variety within CentraCare that can help you out.
There's a lot of literature that's out there. There's a lot of stuff online. I'll ask you, do you happen to have a particular website that you like to go to look at nutritional ideas, suggestions?
There are some dietitians that I follow on like Instagram, then that's where I get a large majority of what I talk with patients about.
Okay.
But there are several options out there for people.
All right. You'll get it all the right information that you need when you talk to your doctor. Right?
Exactly.
All right. Very good. Emily Rothstein, our guest, registered dietitian with CentraCare Dietitian's Dish. We have been talking about the holidays. Good luck, everybody, and Merry Christmas. AM 1450, FM 99.3 KNSI. You have been listening to Your Health.